Son, the babysitter just arrived, so be on your best behavior. We don't want any calls from her telling us you were giving her a hard time. We will be back in a couple hours. Okay? Love you, bud. Have a good night.
I hate needing a babysitter. I'm almost 10 years old. I thought to myself, I wonder when my babysitter is going to introduce herself, and maybe when my friend gets here and we can make a plan to mess with her. That's when I heard a knock on my door. It was my babysitter. She wanted to tell me she would be ordering food, and then she told me she would be going downstairs to watch a movie. She invited me, but I declined. About an hour goes by, and my friend still had not shown up. I got irritated at this, because he was supposed to be here when my parents had left, so I decided to call him. Of course, no answer. It was getting late now. I came to the conclusion that my friend had ditched me. My babysitter came into my room and said it was going on 11 p.m., so it was time to go to bed. I asked her to call my parents to see when they would be home. They usually don't stay out this late, but she shrugged it off, assuming they would probably be home soon, so don't worry too much. As I started to fall asleep, I hear a faint knocking sound. I did not know where the source was coming from. Then, I heard a more distinct knocking this time. As I looked closer, I noticed it was my friend. I sighed with relief and joy. My friend had finally decided to show up. He then asked me to come outside and play with him, which was strange considering the thunderstorm was pretty severe. This did not stop him from being persistent with sneaking outside. Through the heavy rain muffling out his voice, I then realized his voice was a lot lower than usual. It kinda sounded like someone was trying to raise the pitch of their voice, while inevitably having a low falsetto. I quickly concluded it must have been the rain dampening his voice. I'm not going outside. It's too dark and my parents would ground me for life.
Come on, man. Come outside. Or at least open the window. I have something to show you. Please?
What do you have to show me? Just tell me when you come inside, okay?
Well, I wanted to show you something really cool. It's not far from here. It's actually in the backyard.
We can check it out later when the thunderstorm is over. Now get out of the rain.
Okay. I guess I can show you later. Now hurry. Open the window, please.
So, this made me nervous, because my friend never said please like that. But I was too excited to care. I was happy that my friend actually showed up. I told him to hold on a second. I have to unlock the window first. I got myself out of the comfort of my bed, tiptoed to my window, trying not to alert the babysitter. I didn't want her to catch my friend climbing into the window. I was in the process of unlocking it to let him in when I noticed something that startled me. I seen my friend swaying side to side unnaturally. Not only that, but my friend's face appeared strange to me. It was very still. I couldn't see clearly due to the rain being so heavy. He also looked expressionless. On top of that, I could make out my friend's height from where he was standing. He was a lot taller than possible. Unless he was standing on a large rock or something. He was almost at the height of my window, which was decently high for someone around my age altogether. Not to mention, it was so dark outside, I could not see his body. I could only make out his face. So, this unnerved me for some reason. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. After careful thought, I decided not to open the window to let him in. I told him to go to the front door. He whimpered while saying, "Okay, I'll see you in a minute." He then trotted off. I could not take my eyes off him. With closer inspection, I saw that his head was dipping up and down dramatically as he walked away, very slowly. This was very unnatural. It absolutely terrified me. I quickly ran downstairs and rushed to lock the door. I stood there, just looking through the peephole, waiting for my friend to come running up while shouting at me to open the door, exclaiming, calling me a jerk for making him walk around the house, which was actually a good distance from my room, especially in a heavy thunderstorm. But my friend never showed up. He was nowhere in sight. Just to make sure, I slowly and steadily unlocked my front door, then carefully opened it. My heart was racing. After peeking outside, I saw nothing. He wasn't anywhere. Though I was relieved, I was also anxious due to the fact I was hoping my friend would actually be there, contemplating, my imagination running wild. That night could go on normally as it should have. I then closed and locked the front door and quickly paced myself to the babysitter where I found her just laying on the couch watching a scary movie. She was confused by the way I approached her. I told her everything that just happened. She tried explaining to me I was probably really tired and upset because my friend didn't come over. She insisted that she would call my parents in hopes to calm me down. She then told me she would investigate my room where I allegedly saw my friend. As time passed, she did exactly what she said she'd do, and discovered nothing. There was no sign of my friend, or anyone at all in that matter. She told me it's late, that I should try to get some sleep, not to let my imagination get the best of me. She also stated that my parents should be home soon anyways. I knew she was trying to make me feel better, but I know what I saw and it scared the hell out of me. But at least it was over. As I lay in bed ready to forget this night ever happened, I started to doze off. That's when I noticed something that made my heart fall deep into my chest. I could feel this whisper of a breeze making its way through my window. I remember I had not locked my window. It was now open. In a panic, I was about to scream for the babysitter until I heard my friend start talking to me while my closet door started to creak open slowly. As I tried to focus, I seemed to be stuck in a trance. There in the shadows, I could see my friend's face just staring at me. I noticed that the position of his head was about 2 feet off the ground. It appeared as if he was crouching down really low. I was so scared my efforts to scream was nearly impossible. Nothing, no matter how hard I tried, nothing would come out. That's when I saw his head slowly raise itself from the position he was in, almost like he was smoothly standing up without changing his facial expression at all. He was now standing at least 6 feet tall. I tried to understand how this was possible, considering the circumstances of barely being 5 feet tall myself. Due to the darkness inside the closet, I could not see his body again. I could only make out his face. His head was sticking out just enough for me to see him. I finally got my courage back. As I got up to run, the closet door opened a little more. I knew something was off. I just couldn't put my finger on it. I kept repeating to myself, "Pale face, glossy eyes, too tall. Pale face, glossy eyes." I knew my friend wasn't okay. He kept trying to persuade me to come into the closet and play with him. He was being very persistent. I just wanted this to be over. I closed my eyes and tried to mute out the continuous attempts to lure me into the closet. But that was shortly interrupted when I heard my closet door creak open more than it had already been. I sat there frozen, not able to move. My fear had been intensifying by the second, closing my eyes tight, being too scared to open them. Then the worst thing that could have happened has happened. I heard a shuffling noise coming from the closet to the end of my bed. I quickly moved to an upward position, hugging my knees to my chest, thinking he was going to grab my feet and pull me under that bed. It's safe to say my friend wasn't really my friend. After a few moments, I decided I would count to 3 and open my eyes. 1, 2, 3. I slowly opened them. Although it was dark, I could see my friend's head peering at the end of my bed. All I could focus on were those glossy eyes staring back at me. What felt like hours had only been seconds. I seen him move slowly out of sight to under the bed. My blood ran cold when I heard the shuffling noise getting closer. I knew he was now under my bed. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. A few moments later, the shuffling stopped. I decided to open my eyes for the second time, thinking I was done for, and that thing pretending to be my friend would lunge at me and devour me into nothing. I took a deep breath, then opened my eyes. As I was scanning the room looking for anything that was off, although it was dark, I could still make out distinct features like my bureau and my desk. Other than that, there was nothing. I listened intently for any signs of noise. As I was listening, I could make out a scratching sound coming from the floor beside my bed. I slowly turned over to have a look, and what I saw almost made me vomit. I was looking at my friend, staring directly at me. He was on the floor, but only his face was showing. Then he slowly made his way back under my bed. I sat there in disbelief. As I was trying to gather up enough courage to look under my bed, I slowly leaned over to the edge of my bedside. I was nearing the bottom, and I noticed there was trickles of blood on my floor from where my friend's head had appeared. I screamed in a panic when I seen that my friend's severed head had been propped there in a puddle of blood. I quickly jumped up. As I was doing so, I stopped when I heard something behind me. What I saw will haunt me forever. As I slowly turn around, I see a large man with an unnaturally large smile, gripping both of my parents' heads in each hand. Then he said something that turned my blood cold.
We see you.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Mommy always sang this to me when I was younger. It helped me to forget the things that Daddy did to Mommy and Johnny. Daddy was always angry at our home. He'd come home from work and start throwing things at Mommy. It got loud and I hid under the table every time Daddy would shout at Mommy, until Johnny got Daddy to leave. Johnny was Mommy's boyfriend, but treated me like a princess. I always got to play with the newest dolls, and he always took me to the carnival and drove me to school. Johnny cared for me like he did Mommy, but Daddy was always mean to Mommy. Daddy would come in the house and yell at Mommy. He was always there, yelling at Mommy to give me Tanya back. I never wanted to go with Daddy, and he would try to fight with Mommy. Johnny and Daddy would argue outside and fight all the time. Daddy would hit Johnny, and Johnny would drive Daddy away. They always fought, and there was never happiness between them. Pain. Daddy would go away for a while, then come back later. He and Mommy would never stop arguing, and Daddy tried to take me with him. Daddy said I was in danger if I stayed home, but Mommy wouldn't let him take me. His words scared me. He said that people were getting sick, but Johnny told him it was all a bunch of lies and told him to leave. Mommy kept taking me to school and made sure to bring me home. Daddy would wait for me out by the school and offer to drop me off, but Mommy told me to not go with him. I obeyed Mommy and got in the car with her. Every day I went to school, there would be less of my friends going. Nobody was going to school but me. Mommy told me they were not going to class and that they'd be in big trouble with their parents at home for not going. She said she was proud of me for doing my homework and still going to school. I didn't want to disappoint Mommy, so I kept going to school, but weird things started happening. My friends stopped going to school, and a lot of the kids were gone. My teacher left sick, and only me and someone else were learning from the substitute teacher. The other kid left and never came back either, and I couldn't go to school anymore. Sickness. Mommy was upset that I couldn't keep going to school and told me to read my books and write down notes like in class. I didn't want to disappoint Mommy, so I kept writing in my journal. I had written down everything new I learned and made sure to write all of it down. Daddy would still come sometimes and try to take me from her. He said that, "You're endangering her, Rachel. She can't stay here anymore." But as soon as Daddy came to talk to Mommy, Johnny made Daddy leave. Daddy and Johnny were always fighting. Johnny kept telling Daddy that we were fine and that he didn't need to worry. But Daddy never left. Daddy came back every day trying to take me with him. I love Daddy, but he is wrong. I'm Mommy's little sunshine, and I belong to her. She tells me how I make every day better for her, and that I mean the world to her. But Mommy became worried when Johnny helped a man outside who needed help. Mommy tried to save him, but he was gone before Mommy could help. Cold. Autumn arrived and both Mommy and Johnny made Halloween decorations. I helped carve pumpkins and helped Mommy make some pumpkin pies. Daddy came again and started smashing the decorations. Johnny and Daddy started fighting outside, and Johnny hurt Daddy's face. I cried to Mommy for Johnny to stop, but Johnny kept hitting him. He kept hitting him and hitting him. Mommy went outside and tried to stop Johnny, but Johnny told her to go inside and couldn't stop him. Johnny kept stomping on Daddy's face, making him turn red. Daddy didn't wake up after the fight, and Johnny moved Daddy to the backyard and put him in the bushes. He told Mommy not to talk about what happened and not to visit Daddy. I wanted to see Daddy, but Mommy told me not to. I didn't want to disappoint Mommy, so I didn't go see Daddy. Mommy didn't have to tell me that Daddy was gone, and Johnny made Daddy go. But I couldn't help Daddy. Mommy told me to keep writing everything in my journal, so I wrote about how I missed Daddy. Daddy was mean and yelled a lot, but he was still my daddy, and I missed him. I wanted Daddy back, but he was gone. And he won't come back. Death. Johnny started getting sick. Mommy tried to get him medicine, but they ran out. All the stores were closed and no kids were outside. No one was playing, no cars went by, and no noises were outside. The TV stopped working and Mommy was making smaller lunches and dinners. She told me, "We need to watch what we eat." I listened to Mommy and ate only what she gave me. Johnny didn't leave his bed for a week. And one day, Mommy woke up and saw he was cold. Mommy was in tears and I tried to cheer her up. She smiled and hugged me. "You will always be my little sunshine, Tanya." Mommy started to get sick too. I tried to help Mommy to get better. I gave her food, but she told me not to. She told me that she would get better if I just brought her water. I didn't want to disappoint Mommy, so I did as she told me. She would sing to me at night that song I liked. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away." Mommy kept getting sick and told me one night before falling asleep, "You will always be my little sunshine." I woke up the next morning and found Mommy. She was cold, and when I shook her, she didn't wake up. Mommy was gone, and so was the food. I ate what was left, but I kept getting hungry. No one was outside, and I was too scared to go outside. Mommy, I'm so sorry I disappointed you. I was just so hungry that I had to. Mommy was so tasty, and the red that came out tasted so good. The hunger went away the more I ate, and Mommy still smiled at me. I got Mommy's heart out and took a bite. I ate it all. I felt like I was bad, but I was just so hungry. But I'm still Mommy's little sunshine, right?
The bunk bed. Growing up, I had one sister and one brother. Due to the fact that my family really wasn't that well off financially, my brother and I always shared a room. However, even with him in the room with me, I often found myself really scared of the dark. Understandably, I had those childhood fears regarding places that I couldn't see. For example, our closet door was always closed, so I was afraid of that. My mother made our beds every morning, and our blankets hung down nearly to the floor. I never checked under it before going to bed, because I didn't want my brother to tease me. However, I always felt that maybe there was something under the bed every night. Well, things changed when I was 10 years old, and my older brother was 12. Our parents bought us bunk beds. I was so happy when my older brother insisted that I have the top bunk. You see, that eliminated one of my fears. I knew that the only thing that would ever be under my bed was my own brother. By telling you that I was trying to avoid having my older brother tease me, I hope I didn't give you the impression that he was a mean brother. He was actually really cool for the most part. But brothers will tend to tease other brothers every now and then, regardless of how nice they were. We probably had the bunk beds for a year, when something really freaky happened to me. I was sleeping, and I was woken up in bed by a strange sound. It was an odd scratching noise, and the noise was coming from under my bed. It only took me a few moments before I realized that my older brother was scratching the boards under my box spring. Although I didn't know why he was doing it, I was relieved. If I'd still been in my twin bed, I know I probably would have messed my pants. Instead, I simply turned over and attempted to go back to sleep. Do you know that moment when you're going to sleep, that you're about to doze off? You never realize it unless something brings you out of it. I had that happen to me. Right when sleep was about to overtake me again, I remembered something. My older brother was sleeping over at his best friend's house that night. My eyes opened up really wide, and I felt a chill go down my spine. At first, I tried to think about what was happening. I mean, there might be an explanation for it. Perhaps I was hearing things. But no. I cleared my mind, and it was very distinct that someone was in that bunk below me and was scratching the boards. I told myself that it couldn't be a monster, because no matter how much I was scared of them, I was always told they didn't exist. But if it wasn't a monster or a ghost that was in the bottom bunk scratching the boards, then it had to be a person. And I realized that my realization of that was even worse. If a person was in that bed, it meant that someone had broken into our house and likely had bad intentions. I didn't know what to do. If when you were a kid, there was something that scared you in your own room, you might know what I mean. You think someone or something is in your room with you, and the last thing you want to do is call attention to the fact that you know it is there. If a monster or a murderer was under there and I called to my parents, it would get to me long before they got to me. However, if it thought I was asleep, then I believed it might leave me alone. The scratching did stop. It actually hadn't gone on very long at all, but I didn't hear or see anything get up and out of the bed, so whatever had been making the noise was still there. So I laid in bed, terrified, unable to close my eyes or to sleep. For nearly an hour I lay there, my fear never going away. And then I heard the springs in the mattress move a bit. I could tell whoever was in that bed was getting up. I began praying. I won't lie that tears were going to run down my eye as I waited to see whatever it was. Then my bedroom door opened. The hallway light was on, and I finally saw the being as it was leaving the room. It was my brother, leaving the room. He left the room, and a few moments later, I heard the toilet flush. Then he walked back in. I tried to pretend I was asleep, and he crawled back into bed. I didn't know what to think about the situation. My brother wasn't supposed to be home. Why was he there? And why was he scratching the boards under my bed? Eventually, I went back to sleep. I found out in the morning that my brother's friend's family had an emergency, and they had to leave town, so they brought my brother home. He somehow got into the bedroom without me realizing it. He was worried about his friend and couldn't sleep, so he had propped his legs up and was scratching the boards with his toenails. I never told him about me being scared that night. Like I mentioned, he would have just teased me. But you know, this story always makes me think about fear. I mean, there was a perfectly rational explanation for what happened, but my mind made it something much scarier than it actually was. That's the real fear, the real terror. It is what our minds will tell us to frighten us. Sometimes, it seems like the person scaring us the most is just ourselves.